We all know at least one very religious person, right? What would happen if their beliefs got challenged in an extremely real way? Hopefully, they would behave way better than Hugh Grant in the new A24 thriller Heretic. Grab your scriptures, kneel down, bow your heads, and let's get into this. Two young missionaries are forced to prove their faith when they knock on the wrong door and are greeted by a diabolical man who ensnares them in his game of cat and mouse. In addition to Hugh Grant, this also stars Sophie Thatcher, Chloe East, and an appearance from Topher Grace. Now for this role, Grant is masterfully weaving all of his rom-com personalities into one, capturing the smug and disarming charm that he's known for, while also bringing in an unsettling and distressing, eerie intensity that is going to set off all of your alarm bells. I mean, I absolutely loved him for this role. He's the creepy grandpa sort, where you know something is very off, but can't nail it down exactly until it's unfortunately too late. And Grant plays the role as calm, patient, very intelligent, and cunning, with an earnest attempt at wanting to discuss truth. But there are shifts that he creates with his eyes that are so subtle and yet arresting, and they just instantly create this mounting terror. And then we've got the two missionaries who happen to knock on the door, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. And while they both convincingly portray shy and slightly cautious young women, they also have an abundance of trust that they feel burdened to display so that they can connect and proselytize effectively. Now, I really enjoyed the differences that we get to see in the personalities that each of them create. Thatcher's a little more street smart. I mean, she's observant, a bit wary, and feels more genuine in her faith journey because she doesn't always come across as 1,000% in. She wrestles with some doubts, and it's evident through her facial expressions and then the look behind her eyes. East, on the other hand, is much less street smart, but that naivete, it doesn't mean that she's completely clueless. I loved the incessant eagerness that she gives the character, just bulldozing through the spiels in hopes of making a conversion. She's got almost this one-track mind for the first portion of the film, deeply entrenched in her faith with seemingly almost zero doubt. And she's a great contrast in this area for Thatcher. I mean, they both have faith, and they both share common goals, but East is way more invested in pushing the talking points than critically thinking through any raised objections or questions. And I also like to see the struggle that both girls share with their desire to talk about their faith and then be polite, while also slowly realizing that something is amiss, and then what should they do? I mean, I think they make some dumb choices occasionally, but nothing so out of the norm that it breaks the story's illusion. And for as much as this is a character-driven storyline, the dialogue is what makes this equally entrancing. The conversations once the girls sit down to speak with Grant carry an undefined tenseness. As he raises questions, they get slightly uncomfortable. And in the genius of the writing, the directing, and the acting, Grant then switches gears from uneasy to lighthearted and charming. And he continues this behavior turnabout all throughout the story, keeping us off balance and then unsure what response we're going to see. Now, I also appreciate within the writing the questions that are raised relating to belief and religion. Kind of like with Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, ideas contrary to popular mainstream theology are raised that then have the potential to rock faith, or at the very least create ponderous moments. And the information that we get, it is carefully and methodically laid out, building out the opportunities to question or confirm. I think why I also like this so much is because while all of these questions are being offered to the two missionaries, the story's also directing them at the audience, challenging us, along with the girls, to create an internal discussion. If you enjoy movies that have intrusive shot selections, you're going to love some of this. The camera moves us about so that we weave around and in between the characters as they're confronted with provocative ideals. And as they ponder their responses, we are slowly taken around a room with the camera continuously facing the girls, sometimes getting right up in their faces, and then other times showing the hesitant or trembling movements that they're experiencing. The camera also, though, uses constraint to then stop its movement to patiently rest on capturing a character's expression as they deliver their dialogue. There's this creepy and even scary tone that's established simply from camera placement and movement. I loved it when we would be following a character and not be able to see what they see because we're behind them. The tension, it's extreme, and it creates some good anxiety. And there were also one or two times when a character looks at something and we get to see their reaction, but not what they saw. I mean, this aggravated me in the best way. Once I saw despair or maybe futility in a character's eyes, I was just chomping at the bit to see what caused that look. And then the character moves away, and we're just kind of left in that space of the unknown. I'm also impressed at the pacing of the storytelling. This is just under 2 hours, and even though there are many slower and patiently delivered sequences, the suspense and the dread, they didn't subside, so the unrelenting pressure removed any feeling of slowness. I think the thing that bothered me most within the story, and it's not major, is all of the trustingness that was displayed by so many of the limited characters that we interact with. I think it's inherent to have some level of optimism in humanity when it comes to proselytizing. So what's shown, it's not necessarily out of the ordinary, but it did feel weird when characters would show their internal warning alarm that was going off, or maybe they had some creeping doubt, but then they would wholeheartedly ignore it and continue on. I think this is most annoying when it comes to Topher Grace's character. I mean, like I said, he is barely in the movie, but the interaction that we get, it felt more gimmicky in order to create this sense of relief or maybe security. So overall, Heretic is a thrilling and unsettling twisted tale of perverted belief and how faith and doubt go hand in hand. Hugh Grant is right in his element, mixing charismatic appeal with unhinged ferocity to craft an indelibly terrifying persona. Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East excel at showcasing trust and earnestness while being confronted with situations that should have them screaming and running for the hills. With deliberate and intense pacing, along with immersive camera work, the atmosphere is oppressive and intriguing all at once. Some character decisions don't fully make sense, but these are minimized by the anxiety and thought-provoking nature of the storytelling. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and some intense violence. I give Heretic 4.5 out of 5 couches. It is great to see Hugh Grant as such a devious villain, and I hope we get more of him in roles like this. All right, do you have a favorite religious-themed movie? I mean, it could be horror, drama, even pro-faith. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.